Well, good afternoon, YouTube. Welcome back to another exciting video here at Tops Outdoor Adventures. I don't know about where you live, but it is fixing to get Satan's armpit hot out here in Oklahoma. And it's a little too windy to go fishing right now, so I figured I'd take my 7 or 8 loyal viewers and ask them to suffer through another video. Well, today we're talking about heat. What do we do about our hives getting hot? Well, first order of business, honeybees do an incredible job at thermoregulation. Ooh, redneck right there. Thermoregulation. Screwed that all up. Hey, by the way, all my videos are unedited, unscripted, and what you see is what you get. Thermoregulation. Okay, the bees will sit in here and they can control the temperature of the hive. That's what all that means. And they do a real good job of it. Now, when it starts to get Satan's armpit hot, I try to figure out ways that I can help them out. Now, a little background on things. A feral colony living out in the wild, most likely, let's say they live in a tree, or maybe they live in the soffit of your house, who knows. But they'll have a very small entrance where they come and go. Maybe one, they may have 2 ways in and out, whatever. But it's a pretty small hole. Well, we take these bees and we put them in this big old box right here. And down here on the front of the hive, I think you guys can see, this is the entrance. And I'll go ahead and turn this a little bit. The entrance is a traditional space, runs all across the front of the hive. Lets the bees come and go. Now, what that does is give the bees a whole lot of entranceway for them to guard against stronger hives coming in and robbing them, or any other pest, predators, just whatever. So, why are beehives like that? Well, I think back to the days when Grandpap and I were keeping bees, and all we had was what was called a solid bottom board. Now, a solid bottom board is just like it implies. The base of the board was solid front to back. Nowadays, and I was just looking to see if I had a bottom board real quick I can show you. Nowadays we have what's called ventilated bottom boards. So the actual bottom of this is 1/8 inch hardware cloth. Now, with the old solid bottom boards, we kind of had to help them out a little bit with ventilation. And I think the reason that the entrance was so big initially on a Langstroth hive was to aid with ventilation. Well, now that we have vented bottom boards, I don't feel there's a need for this great big long entrance. And as a matter of fact, many times through the years, we reduced that entrance down really small to help protect our bees. So I don't see a reason to have that great big entrance anymore. On my hives, I've got a 3/4 inch hole right here. And on this hive, I've got probably 1.5 inches, about 1.5 inches that they can go in right here and right in front of my finger. Okay, and that's the only entry and exit that I have. The reason I did that is because I know I've got plenty of ventilation coming from below the hive. So like I say, I think that when we had solid bottom boards, we gave that great big entrance to help with ventilation. Now, when a hive gets too hot, that's when you see the bees, they'll come out of the hive and they'll be all over the face of the hive, they'll be hanging off of it. And a lot of people are like, oh, my bees are swarming, when actually they're not. That's called bearding. And they're doing that simply to get their body heat out of the hive. They're trying to cool the hive down. Oh, and I hope you guys like the t-shirt. Saved by grace, not by government. There's probably a message there somewhere. But anyway, that collection of bees, when it's 100 degrees outside, is called bearding. And that's the bees getting their body heat out of the hive so that they can control the temperature of the hive. They want it about 92 degrees in there to keep the brood, which is the baby bees and stuff, to keep the eggs, pupa, and larvae at the right temperature so that they grow to be healthy, hatch out, and away goes the world. But anyway, before I get down that road, that's bearding, okay? And they do that to cool the hive down. Now, I came up with something last year, and I can't take credit for it. The credit has to go to a guy named Jonathan Hargis, aka the Hive Doctor. Check out his YouTube channel. I've mentioned him many times before. He's a good friend of mine. He actually flew out here and played beekeeper with me for a few days and helped me do splits and a Damari manipulation and requeen some hives. We had a pretty good time. But anyhow, I got the idea from him when he was talking about the Valde boards and quilting boxes and things like that. And what I came up with was this deal right here. Okay, I made a box and it sits right on top of the hive. It is the same dimension as this box right here as far as length and width. Now, what's unique about this? Well, I'm sure you guys can probably see there's holes drilled all through it. This is the bottom of it. I drilled 5, I think these are 1.5 inch holes, and I covered them on the inside with 1/8 inch hardware cloth. Okay, the bees cannot pass through 1/8 inch hardware cloth. So the holes on the bottom allow air to get up into the box. As you see around all the edges here, I have drilled holes, you know, different sizes. I kind of went overboard on this one, but I got a bunch of holes drilled in there, and I've got hardware cloth on them also on the inside here, so that I can keep other things from going into this top box from the outside. The bees cannot get into it from the bottom, and other bugs and pests cannot get to it from the inside. But what this does, I set this box on top here, and I go back with my, that box is about to fall over. I go back with my traditional migratory cover, and what I have now is an oddball cover that won't fit this box. I told you guys, unscripted and unedited, right? Probably should have tried this out first. I got one of these lids that just doesn't sit right. Have we got another one handy? Hey, I got one up here, even the right color. Let's grab it and we'll set it down on there. Because if you talk to your wives, or if you're a woman that happens to be watching this, we all know that being color coordinated is a very important deal, as I have my blue venting box up on top here. But I set this box on there, put my traditional migratory cover on, and what that does, it allows air to really flow through the hive. It lets the heat escape from the top, air comes in from the bottom, and it's a whole lot easier for the bees to regulate the temperature of the hive. Now, what did I see with these last year? Well, last year, once I put these on, my bees quit bearding. I didn't have any bearding issues at all. All my bees stayed in the box. So, like I say, this is just something to think about. Gives the bees a little more ventilation for when it gets stupid hot outside. And again, the credit goes to Jonathan Hargis. He gave me this idea watching one of his videos. Well, anything else I say here, I'm going to start rambling, so I'm going to wrap this up. Venting box. Make it any way you want to. And I know a lot of people, as I'm beginning to ramble, a lot of people will put a nickel between the top cover and their hive to help get some air through, or a penny or a dime or just whatever. I don't want to fool with that. So I just come out here, and that's a 1x3 on top of 3/8 inch particle board, and away we go. If you got any questions, throw them down there in the comments. And give me a comment anyway, because you really like my videos. And be sure to like, subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and share. And as always, I appreciate you guys checking me out here. Y'all have a great day, and good luck with your beekeeping. Here we go. Saved by grace, not by government, baby.